Shall we?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio. Today we are looking at the Mask of Zorro. Now I know it's been a while since I've looked at a movie inspired by Tim Burton's Batman, and Zorro is one of, if not the oldest American pulp character, and what we're going to look at is whether or not this movie is any good, not compared to the other Batman 89 clones, but by itself. Also, what makes these pulp heroes work in movies? And that's what we're going to be exploring today, just like I said. Now let's start off this review by looking at the creative team. And this movie was directed by Martin Campbell. Now some of you guys may know who this guy is. And he's known for his work on action movies. And he is most notable for his two James Bond movies. That would be Goldeneye and Casino Royale. He is credited as the director who revived James Bond not once but twice. Now other movies that he has directed include Vertical Limit with Scott Glenn and Chris O'Donnell, which most of you may have not seen. Edge of Darkness with Mel Gibson, and the god-awful Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds. Well, god-awful if you ask a bunch of DC fans. I saw the movie once and I don't really remember it. But getting back to this movie had 4 different writers on it. You had the writing team of Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio. Now they're a writing team that has written Disney's Aladdin, Shrek, Treasure Planet, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, along with Dead Man's Chest, At World's End, and On Stranger Tides. Deja Vu with Denzel Washington, and The Lone Ranger with Armie Hammer and Johnny Depp. The third writer on the movie was Randall Johnson. Now, the only notable things that you may know him from are The Doors with Val Kilmer, and he wrote the story for the video game Gun that came out in 2005, so, you know, any gamers out there might be familiar with that. And the final writer is John Esco. Now, he only has 3 writing credits to his name, including this movie. The other 2 are Pink Cadillac with Clint Eastwood and Air America with Mel Gibson and Robert Downey Jr. Now, before I end this section off, I want to give just a brief history lesson of Zorro. Zorro was created by American pulp writer Johnston McCulley. Now, the first appearance of Zorro was in the 1919 novel titled The Curse of Capistrano. Now, originally intended to be a standalone story, but the success of the 1920 Mask of Zorro film convinced McCulley to write more Zorro stories, and Zorro is one of the earliest examples of a masked Avenger with a double identity, meaning he is one of the first superheroes in American pop culture. This character will go on to inspire Batman, the Phantom, by the Phantom's creator's own admission, that would be Lee Falk, and even the Shadow to a degree. Now let's dive into the movie itself, and we're obviously going to start off by looking at the characters, and we are going to start off with Antonio Banderas as Alejandro Moreta. Now, you're going to have to, to all my, listeners who speak Spanish, I do apologize, I cannot roll my R's to save my life, so that is going to be the closest pronunciation I can pronounce Moreta. Now, this is the main Zorro that the movie focuses on. He's an outlaw that has a gang of 3 people, including himself, his brother, and a guy with only 3 fingers. Now, his motivation throughout this movie is vengeance against the man who killed his brother, and his character arc goes from outlaw to drunk and aggressive, all the way to swashbuckler that is a man of the people. Next up, we have Anthony Hopkins as Don Diego de la Vega. Now, he's the older Zorro that is in this movie, so yes, this movie has decided to focus on 2 Zorros rather than just the one. Now, this Zorro has everything robbed from him, had everything robbed from him from his arch rival after the arch rival discovers that he's Zorro. His wife is murdered and his daughter stolen and raised by the arch rival. He's in prison for 20 years and he breaks out. He finds Alejandro and decides to train him to take up the mantle of Zorro after he finds out that Alejandro was one of the kids who helped him out in the beginning of the movie. Then we get to Catherine Zeta-Jones as Elena. Now, this is not the only Batman 89 clone that she's been in. She's also been in this.
Just take a look around. Darkness rules the earth.
In a dangerous world.
Governments crumble. Chaos reigns.
In a treacherous time.
There is opportunity in chaos.
Evil is a fact.
We shall succeed where they have failed.
Drax is on a quest for a supernatural power.
They know far too much.
and courage
Stop them. You're the only one who can.
is a phantom.
Who was that guy?
Somebody I already killed.
There are some who say he is only a myth. Soon they will discover the Phantom is real.
I have reviewed The Phantom in the past. A link is below in the description in case if you guys want to check that out. But in this movie, she is the love interest for Alejandro Zorro throughout the movie. She is also the kidnapped daughter of Diego de la Vega Zorro. Now, I know it sounds like I'm spoiling a plot point here, but I'm not. This movie doesn't go out of its way to hide this fact. All you have to do is watch the beginning of the movie and then see when Diego's arch rival comes back with his daughter Elena. From there, you can put two and two together. At one point in the movie, she is shown to have been trained in sword fighting, and that aspect doesn't surprise me given who raised her. It would make sense. Next up, we have Stuart Wilson as Don Rafael Montero, and he is the Spanish governor that is sent there to see over the Californias when the Spaniards had control. He is also the arch rival of Diego de la Vega Zorro, and I'm not gonna lie, he is a one-dimensional villain. He is hell-bent on controlling the Californias himself, and he will quash anyone that stands in his way. But does this character work for the source material? Yes. Zorro was a pulp character. Pulp characters tend to have one-dimensional villains, but focused entirely on the hero. And finally, and I know I'm going to butcher his name, is Matt Letcher as Captain Harrison Love, and he is the arch-rival for Alejandro Zorro, the man who killed Alejandro's brother, and he has also been contracted out by Rafael Montero to help take control of the Californias. Now let's move on and talk about the narrative of the movie, and the movie opens against the backdrop of Santa Anna's campaign to make Mexico an independent nation from both the Spaniards and the Americans at this time, and that's where Zorro shines here. Zorro is fighting for the Mexican people in the Californias against the Spaniards, and the plot for this movie is very simple but effective. Rafael Montero wants to make an independent nation of California. To do this, he is going to buy the land from Santa Anna, given that he has war debts from the Mexican-American War, amongst other conflicts, to keep Mexico an independent nation. Rafael Montero is going to pay Santa Anna in gold that was mined from Santa Anna's land, but has the Spanish stamp on it. The Spanish are using slave labor to mine the gold, and to prevent Santa Anna from finding out the truth, they decide to blow the gold mine along with all the slaves by the end. So Zorro needs to find a way to stop this from happening because he doesn't want the Spaniards to take control of the Californias from Mexico, and he doesn't want the slaves to get unnecessarily slaughtered, and that's really it. It's a pulp story. But the plot doesn't really start until about an hour into the movie. You know, it's the idea of, can Zorro stop the evil Spaniards from buying the land? Can he save the slaves in time before they are all killed? Tune in for the next episode of The Adventures of Zorro. But to move off of that tangent, you know, the first hour of this movie is spent on showing Diego de la Vega Zorro in action, then seeing him imprisoned, then his escape to finding Alejandro and training him to become the next Zorro. More of a quote-unquote passing of the torch story. Now, Diego de la Vega does die at the end of the movie, but not before revealing to Elena that he is her father. And you know, Maury Povich would be so proud of that moment. And no, I am not going to insert a clip of the Maury Povich show, the whole thing of Diego, you are the father, because 80% of the clip would be muted because everyone was screaming, "You motherfucker, son of a bitch! I fucking knew it!" You know, but everybody knows, you know, Maury Povich. I hope everyone knows Maury Povich. If you don't, just know that he is famous for he is the "you are the father" guy. You know, where was I at? Oh, yeah, you know, he dies at the end of the movie, but not before revealing to Elena that he is her father, and Alejandro being ready to take up the mantle as Zorro. Now let's take a look at how this movie was received. And on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has a tomato meter score of 83%, based on 75 critic reviews, with the critics' consensus being, quote, Banderas returns as an aging Zorro in this surprisingly nimble, entertaining swashbuckler, end quote. And I believe the name Hopkins was supposed to be there and not Banderas, because Banderas was the younger Zorro, Hopkins was the aging Zorro. But that's neither here nor there. And this movie has an audience score of 73% based on 250,000 plus ratings. This movie has a Metacritic score of 63 based on 22 critic reviews and a user score of 8.8 out of 10 based on 225,000-ish ratings. This movie sits on IMDb at... Oh, whoops. Sorry, guys, I got my numbers confused. On the Metacritic score, user score of 8.8 out of 10, that is based on 225 ratings. This movie sits on IMDb at a 6.7 out of 10 based on 172,000-ish reviews. Now, this movie had a reported budget of $95 million, and that is a big budget even for 1998 standards, and grossed $250,288,523 worldwide. And this movie was considered a commercial success at the time, and this movie has made way more money over the years through various home video releases, VOD, as well as showings on syndicated television and premier cable channels like HBO. So, believe me, this movie has made more than $250,000 over the last... What is that now? This is 2021, 1998. Let's see, 23 years. Now, I'll end the video off with this. This is just an action swashbuckling movie with a simple, take the land from the natives and oppress them plot, and it's fine. It works because Zorro was a pulp character. This movie went out of its way to show the character's pulpy roots, from the one-dimensional villains to the sword fights and acrobatics that Zorro was pulling off. And it had a lot of humor, but none of it at the expense of the character. There's romance thrown in with the humor and action, and it all works very well together. And the best movies adapted from pulp characters tend to not abandon their pulp roots. That's why the James Bond franchise was so successful for 40 to 50 years until Daniel Craig took over the role, but that is a completely different discussion for another time. The moment that a screenwriter or director abandons the pulp roots of a character like Zorro, the movie is doomed to fail, in my opinion. And that's all I have to say on The Mask of Zorro. If you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. And as you guys know, if you've been listening for long enough, I am very, very bad at concluding these videos. So I guess I will just see you guys next time.